They laughed at him. They said he wasn't smart enough, not strong enough, not lucky enough. But 5 years later, the same people who once ignored his name now whisper it with respect. This is the story of Ethan Cole, a man who rose from dust and turned his dream into light. Ethan Cole was born in the quiet suburbs of Detroit, a place where dreams often died before they could even begin. At 32, Ethan had nothing left. His small business had failed. His marriage had ended. His confidence was buried beneath the weight of unpaid bills and broken promises. Every morning, he walked 5 miles to a construction site, not because he loved the job, but because it was the only thing that kept him alive. He carried bricks on his shoulders, but heavier than that was the burden of his unfulfilled potential. During lunch breaks, he'd watch tall buildings rise into the sky and whisper to himself, "Someone once dreamed this. Maybe I could dream too." At night, when the city slept, Ethan sat alone with his cracked phone, watching videos of people like Elon Musk, Oprah Winfrey, and Steve Jobs. Not out of jealousy, but hunger. A hunger to rise. A hunger to become more than what he was. One freezing winter night, Detroit went dark. A massive power outage. No light, no heat, only silence. Ethan sat in his dim apartment, a single candle flickering beside him, and as the wax slowly dripped down, he stared at that tiny flame and thought, what if everyone could have power? Anywhere, anytime. That night, on a torn piece of paper, he drew the first design of what would later change his life. A small, affordable, solar-powered device. He didn't know how to build it. He didn't have the money, but he had belief. For months, Ethan worked by day and built by night. He used old tools, recycled wires, and second-hand batteries. He failed again and again. Smoke, short circuits, explosions, everything that could go wrong did. Neighbors mocked him. Friends told him to get a real job. But Ethan smiled and said, "I'd rather fail doing something that matters than succeed doing something I hate." After 6 long months, he built his first working prototype. Tired but proud, he walked into a local investor's office. He presented his idea with trembling hands, his heart full of hope. The investor listened for 2 minutes and said, "Too risky, too small, nobody cares about backup energy." Ethan stood there in silence, heartbroken. That night, walking home through the cold, he stopped by a park bench. He sat down, empty, hopeless, ready to quit. Then, a homeless man asked for food. Ethan gave him his last sandwich. The old man smiled and said, "You look like someone carrying a heavy dream." Ethan replied softly, "I think I'm about to drop it." The man looked at him and said, "Then it was never a dream, son. Just an idea. Dreams don't let you sleep." Those words hit him like lightning. He went home and started again. He sold his old car, borrowed tools, and built 5 more prototypes. He began sharing videos online, short clips explaining how his device worked. At first, no one noticed. Then, one day, a small tech blogger posted, "Detroit man builds the future of portable energy." That post changed everything. Within hours, Ethan's inbox flooded with messages. People wanted to buy his device. People wanted to help. Ethan didn't even have a company name yet. That night, he came up with one, Solven, a mix of solar and driven. From his small kitchen with 2 old friends, he began assembling devices by hand. They worked 18 hours a day, soldering, testing, packing, delivering. They were exhausted, but alive. Ethan looked out of his window one night and whispered, This is the start." As sales grew, Ethan rented a small workshop. He hired people no one else would. Ex-convicts, single mothers, college dropouts. He told them, "We're not just building devices, we're building second chances." Soon, local news picked up his story. Detroit man builds solar startup from his garage. Investors came calling again. the same ones who once laughed at him. But this time, Ethan said no. He wanted to build Solvin his way. 3 years later, Solvin Energy became one of America's fastest-growing clean tech startups. His invention reached small villages in Africa and schools in India, where children studied under the light of his solar lamps. One morning, Ethan opened his email and saw a message from a teacher in Kenya. "Because of your invention, our students can now read after sunset. You didn't just create power, you gave them hope." Ethan sat there quietly, and for the first time in years he cried. 5 years later, Ethan Cole stood on a TEDx stage. He looked out at the crowd, hundreds of faces staring at him with admiration. He began to speak. "5 years ago, I had nothing but a broken phone and a belief that life had more to offer. I didn't find success. I built it, one failure at a time." He paused. The room was silent. The world doesn't care where you start. It only cares if you start. So start. Even when you're scared. Especially when you're scared. The audience rose to their feet, applauding for minutes. That night, as Ethan returned home, he stood in front of the mirror in his old apartment, the same place where his dream was born. He looked at his reflection and whispered, "You did it. You rose." In that reflection, he didn't see a man anymore. He saw a story of dust, turned into a dream. Ethan's journey isn't just his story, it's ours. It's about believing when belief makes no sense. It's about standing up when nobody claps. It is about knowing that pain isn't at the end of your story, it is the beginning of your rise. So tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself one question. What if I start tomorrow? Because maybe, just maybe, that's how your own Solvin begins. If this story moved you, take a moment, breathe, reflect, and rise. Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs a spark of hope, and subscribe to RisePulse Stories, where every fall becomes a rise.